All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So let's check. I hope we are live now. Yes, we are live now. Uh, okay, so good evening, everybody. This is Shiblu Ahmad. I'm the CEO and the founder of Texa for You. Today we have in this evening Khalid Mahmood from New York. We will get to know about him, his personal and professional life. Also, he will share the experience with us, some best practices. I think the mostly we are going to the cover the quality engineer metrics. So that's will be will covering, and I will be asking him couple questions. We'll be discussing more. We will both providing our own input about our own experience. This is not any book level, any conversation. This is exclusively our own experience, what we did, how we did, what we go through. So it is up to the audience how they take it. And then if you're fully empowered to engage with us, ask us question, and then you also can provide your input as well. So without any delay, I am going to introduce you with Khalid. He's from New York. Thank you, Khalid, for being agreed to become online with us. Again, this is I do weekly. The whole purpose is people is in pandemic, people is lonely, people get stressed out, depressed. So I try to everybody focus, just focus as much as possible. And plus, of course, we provide the different IT transformation program so people can learn more, people can explore, and they can make a decision. And without like a sitting down idle, they can do something and they can transform into IT. We will go over more details once it is my turn to talk. So go ahead, Khalid, please start now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shiblubai. Thank you for allowing me to speak during your sessions. I've been watching some of your previous recordings of live sessions. And, what I notice about you is you bring in a real world element. And that stands out to me. You don't sell yourself as some kind of, program where that people's lives will change. You're not going to help them do it, but you will provide your um, personal background and expertise uh, as part of a service, which will enable people to change their career path and transform their careers into significant roles in the IT industry. Um, so, with that said, I'm very thankful to be able to speak um, and welcome any of you who are viewing. Just to provide some context, some of you may be, involved in some odd jobs or take bearing the responsibilities of your family, and find it difficult to make ends meet, and that's normal. I come from a background that initially migrated to the United States in the early '90s, right? So I grew up here. I attended school. I During the time that I was growing up, there weren't a lot of Bengali people in New York. So most of my friend circle are not Bengali. I do have some Bengali people that I've met throughout growing up and later on in life and in my professional career. Um, Apart from that, as far as my personal interest goes, I'm into sports. Um, I'm a NFL fan for those that follow the football season. And I like to travel. So one thing, a personal goal I have is to visit all 50 states, and I have personally been to about 40 of them. So I've seen the various living conditions, the various geography and nature that the United States has to offer. With that said, I'll go a little bit into my professional background. Um, so I've been working in the IT industry for about 10 years. I started off initially in quality assurance, Now I'm a Scrum Master, and I've also initiated the process to become a certified project management professional. In my current role, I have the title of a senior consultant with a company called TTC Global. We are a software test consulting service organization founded originally in 2004 in New Zealand, and today we have expanded across the globe. In the early 2000s, no one was really doing a significant amount of test automation. Everyone was doing a whole lot of manual testing. Organizations were simply just throwing bodies at problems in order to solve them and drive an efficient testing effort. Right? What we do is help organizations transform and modernize the way they deliver quality software. And one of the best ways to do that is by leveraging automated testing. So the current client that I'm engaged with, to add a little bit of context, why did they contact us? They're actually a Fortune 200 company. They were doing everything right, but let me tell you, they did not have a quality assurance practice. Okay? Which is to say, only the business users were doing the testing. They don't have a formal testing team. As a matter of fact, the concept of, for those that may be QA professionals or anyone involved in software development, if you're on the call, a lot of the terms we use on a day-to-day basis are foreign to them. One of the IT services director came to us and told us that the leadership team, right? This is a company with a few thousand employees. And of them, the top 60 people had a leadership meeting. And one of the vice presidents mentioned on that call that all their business unit was doing is testing, right? and that should not be the case, because the job of the business is to make the business not to test what they're throwing out. That is why this engagement started. And from the very beginning, I was involved in this organization to drive a change. It started a little bit over a year ago. What we did is an assessment. What they're doing currently, we built a strategy and roadmap. We did a tools assessment and a tool analysis and comparison. We went through a procurement process to purchase those tools. And this year, we have focused a lot of the time on rolling those tools out. And I have been involved in building the framework of the quality practice. And a lot of what I've done is influencing the organization as to why they should operate a certain way, why they need to adopt certain practices. And it's been probably the most challenging role that I've had, and also the most rewarding.
Politics.
Yeah. So just to give you an example, one of the meetings one day I was expecting to go into an hour's meeting to explain the concept of the separation of duties, why it's important. Like, why, if somebody writes a test case, why should someone else be reviewing it? Okay. Who should be reviewing it is a whole different conversation. We're stuck at why. This is a meeting with the director and the enterprise architect. I was expecting to go in the meeting for about an hour. This meeting lasted half a day. So just to outline some of the points is how difficult it is to bring about change, right? Because one of the topics that we included in today's session is stakeholder communication. Who are stakeholders, right? Stakeholders are people typically in leadership roles, like senior managers, director, vice president, CIO, CFO, CEO. Why are they called stakeholders? Because they're holding a piece of steak? No, it's because the outcome of certain decisions or certain projects or certain operations in an organization directly impacts them. That's why they are the key decision makers. Um, One of the decisions was that this organization recognized the need for building a QA program, right?
Mhm.
But nobody in the organization understands what testing is all about.
Mhm.
Um, am I rambling on too much? If you wanna add something, Shibuai, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. Go a little bit more. I'm already taking. I'm observing.
Okay, very good. So
How was that meeting went? The half day meeting. What was the conclusion?
the conclusion of the meeting was that. So let me backtrack a little bit. This is an organization where it doesn't follow standard practices. You have the same people who are system analysts that are writing specs. They
Mm-hmm.
are also making the configuration changes, often development changes and
Mm-hmm.
customizations, and applying them. And they're testing their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the first real formal version of testing is actually UAT. That is what they were doing. And what the conversation was all about is the ideal software development operating model that other organizations are following, which is you have a subject matter expert write the requirements,
Mm-hmm.
right? That requirement should go through a review process, right, by somebody else to
Mm-hmm.
ensure its accuracy, ensure that it's something that they can build,
Mm-hmm.
ensure that it's testable, ensure it aligns with the business's expectations, all that sort of thing. Now, there's a lot of things that happen during the development phase, right? There's going to be a technical lead analyzing, assessing this. They're having
Mm-hmm.
design sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And in parallel, the QA team, or in this case, there's actually no QA team in this organization,
Mm-hmm.
um, they would be assessing the requirements and writing the test cases
Mm-hmm.
while developers are coding. And somebody else, let's say a business analyst or a system analyst, would review and give their blessing that these test
Mm-hmm.
cases are well and good, or provide their feedback, say, hey, you missed the coverage on this area, or this test case needs a whole set of different set of data parameters. Um, Eventually, when the code is delivered, you proceed to testing. There's a test execution review upon um, completing the testing phase, which comes after. Actually, I should mention, as you test, you log your defects. They go through the defect life cycle, and uh, once it comes to acceptance, right? A story is tested. You pass it down to a subject matter expert to accept a completed story. They will go ahead and give it their blessing, or say, you know what, we have the requirement wrong. Send it back through the life cycle and redo it. What uh, the meeting that I was involved in, what the audience failed to understand was why it should be a separate person reviewing at each phase. What is the value in that? Right. Again, keep in mind, if you're in quality assurance, if you did software development, it's probably second nature to you to assume that someone else should be reviewing my code, someone else should be reviewing my test case, etc. But we're talking about the director and the enterprise architect. Um, they're not testing experts. That was a struggle.
Okay, so I think that we got some feedback, good feedback. Shahid Bhai, then the Raz Moon is watching. Okay, so what Khalid Bhai just mentioned, it is really true. Whenever we work with the stakeholders, like the technical manager or the business side manager, some of them are not the technically aligned with your specific vision. Means if you're a quality expert or if you're a development lead, they're not expert. So communication with stakeholders has to be tactical, has to be strategical. Like you need to know the boundaries, where you need to be technical, where you need to be political. Okay, some of the meetings we go that we are not going to prove them the actual technical part. we're going to show them. The reason we do not tell them the technical part, because they don't know. So it's not worth time. Whenever you go to the stakeholder meeting, you always tell them the problem and the solution, the value you're going to add, and you need to tell them return of investment. If you're investing, if the CEO write a $50 million for a project, they need to tell them what is the value of them. But often the time, it is challenging to convince them, because they have their own, the other people they also review, they also do the judgmental. But the bottom line is quite challenging if you are in a position that a team, they do not understand the standard procedure of the software development, and it is just it is frustrating. It is like the difficult. However, if somehow they convince what you said, then the next moment they will start asking, give me the metrics, give me the metric, give me the value. Those kind of conversation they always follow. So we'll talk about this. So how did you, so tell me about the metrics. So you mentioned about the reason. So a couple reasons people do not, the business always come to the UAT, which makes, UAT means user acceptance testing. What it means, a business side give a bunch of the English languages, which is the business requirements. As a technology team, software development team, us like a BA, QA, engineer, architect, we sit together and follow the agile scrum to build an application in the sprint manner, like a 2 weeks, 1 week sprint, and then we start show and tell them. At the same time, we also build them some test data, so they can do the business side, operation side can do the testing their own, because they need to understand the application as well. Plus, they need to verify the initial business requirements they have given to us, so they can actually try it out. However, what Khalid just mentioned, it is like the disaster. Like they just bring their own, the operation team member or the business team member is start testing. Yes, you can do it, but the technique, the testing, a test engineer follow, like the positive testing, negative testing, whatever. There is so many. They do not do any of this. They don't know any of this. They all know how to access the application and serve the customer. So your situation definitely was not that easy to convince them. So what happened then? When you spoke with the director, was he like an IT side director or the business side director?
So he's the enterprise IT services director. He's the one who's sponsoring
Mm,
developing this quality assurance team,
okay.
but he does not have a testing background, right?
Mm,
So that was part of the challenge. He was on our side, but he has to sell it to his peers as well. And
that's right, right, right.
conceptually, he hired us to help him drive that change. Ultimately, we did design that software quality assurance framework, but then came the challenge of presenting it to about 6 or 7 vice presidents, right? The CIO, and a few other people that are business leads, really high up in the organization, right? The meeting was about an hour and a half. It took 2 weeks to prepare the presentation that
Mm,
was going to be used. Because as you can imagine, with an audience at that level, they're going to pick out every word that you have,
mm-hmm,
because you're really writing. Think about it as like a legal contract,
mm-hmm,
right? If you
mm-hmm,
go and buy a house, the law is going, or every lawyer needs to review each and every word
mm-hmm,
that's in your mortgage agreement, right? Um, that this was the case. Every VP, every business lead, they're concerned about their line of business. They are stakeholders.
mm-hmm.
We need to sell it to them, and only then they can enforce and enact what the organization has agreed to. Now, I found this to be one of the greatest challenges and achievements of my career, because I helped this organization build a QA practice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mentioned that this only started about a year ago. There's a long roadmap, right? We got a test management tool, we got a test automation tool, and they love the initial return that this has provided them. So the last 6 or 7 months, I have trained over 400 users in this company on basic quality assurance practices, standardizing the processes, standardizing reporting, so it's consistent and readable to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Before this, every project team was approaching testing differently. It
Mm-hmm.
was chaotic. So for stakeholders, reading a report from each team was like a study session.
Mm-hmm.
That is no longer the case. There is a standard automated regression that runs twice a week now. Um, what's interesting is my offshore team, or we have an onshore offshore operating model. My automation engineers are New Zealand based.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, typically, the offshore teams are in the Philippines, India, or some other Asian countries. That's really the usual case. I have the luxury of a New Zealand team. The greatest asset of that is they have overlapping hours with us. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on calls at the end of the day with them every day. They interact directly with the business.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, it's great. And we have one of the experts that are working right out of New Zealand. We use this tool, Tricentis Tosca. It's one of Gartner's leading automation tools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our architect has over 10 years of experience using that tool, and I don't think anybody in the world has much more than he does because this tool itself is probably that old. Um, there's about 30 people in the world that are certified Tosca architects, and this comes directly from the vendor.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that, just 30 in the world. Um, it's allowed this organization to build maybe 20, 30 test cases at a week
Right.
pace, which is fantastic. And we alluded to metrics a little bit, so I'll get into that since we're
We have,
talking about.
we
Yeah,
have a question. So sorry.
that's okay.
We try to make this the session interactive. So
Mhm.
the question from, can you describe the release mechanism?
Release mechanism.
I think he wants to know the release planning. I would say that.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think just do you know the release planning process?
So usually the release planning process starts from stakeholder level, right? There's an architecture review board. Um, typically, that's an enterprise architect or a solution architect or dev lead, um, and some business unit lead. They collaborate. They talk about what the business needs. That's presented to them. The technical team has to buy into what's deliverable. Project manager oversees the scope of the release and facilitates this process. Right? Uh,
Yeah, his
yeah.
question is not clear. So I think the I don't know if he means, so the release planning means something if a team decide a feature need to go live after 3 months. So there is a series of user stories or the business requirements is supposed to be completed by the team members, mean the development team. So it can have like a straightforward application, two-tier application, multi-tier application. It can have a existing integration, the vendor integration. So release planning team, before the actual release, the go live, a new feature or the series of features go live. Release planning is a special team you can call the deployment team. So I'm just adding my own, like I was when you mentioned the solution architect, that's the way I'm mentioning them. So the solution architect and the DevOps team, they actually work together, but they get the green signal from the development team. In this case, like the QA team, that the testing is done properly, and all the user storage have been committed for the quarterly. We call the quarterly release in a year. So many companies follow the 4 quarter, January to March, the April to June. There is 4 quarter. So the say an example, the December will be the last quarter four. So release planning will start. Many companies start with the December second week. In the meantime, team start follow up everything else, like make sure the testing is done, dependency is clear up. However, the today's release planning is fully automated. So if a company follow the agile scrum and they have a CI/CD pipeline, so basically the DevOps engineer start involving at the beginning of the project. It means beginning of the quarterly the meeting when the code start writing, they create the DevOps engineer create the automated pipeline. So whenever the developer write the code automated way, code goes to the go through the pipeline, which is the you can be GitHub or GitLab. You can have a Jenkins, then it goes to the environment, which is the staging. So code always stay in the staging in the beta for a while. Code does not go to the production right away. That many companies follow the release planning at that moment, like all the stakeholder, in this case the solution architect, enterprise architect, the DevOps, the lead DevOps engineer, they actually involve. And then you go through the release means your product is going live production for this specific feature. So if I don't know, if you ask me about the what is the involvement after the a feature goes live, it goes all at the midnight. Okay, there is many companies, many companies always push the code in the midnight. It means there is not much traffic. If it is a brand new application, you can push anytime. If it is an existing application, you're pushing some new release, it always goes midnight. So basically everybody on the call, and when the code is deployed, everybody start monitoring. The QA team start like the smoke testing. Remember, in production, you do not do the full grown up the regression testing. You do not do the functional testing because you just do the just some smoke testing. Example, why? Because if you cannot just testing a mortgage application in the production, because if you want to approve somebody like the interest rate, you have to pull the credit, right? So you just cannot do anything. You cannot do the production level, the full good of testing. You just monitor closely that all the new release, all the new requirement has been deployed in production successfully. And before you go to the release planning, means production verification, from the QA team, from the actual the software development team, they have their own test data prepared. So it's a production level test data. It's not the staging level. So the team work together. It means you have to work with the database engineer. You have to work with the QA engineer and database engineer. They work together to build the test data. Again, it depends company to company. But once it goes live, you do the small level of testing, make sure everything is ready to go. That's the typical of the release planning for a given quarterly like the release. Go ahead, Khaled, please.
Yep. Were there any other questions? I can't see a chat. If you have.
Uh, no, there is no other question. So go ahead. What is the challenge uh, for the QA automation? Where do you focus as for the automation? How do you some example, you are a high paying consultant or you are an architect, okay?
Mhm.
Uh, then you have been given to the lead the project from the QA point of views. How do you like identify and make a case where to automate, when to automate, and then uh, what is the differences between the automation and the manual, and what is the return of investment if you introduce the automation? So there is like a 6 7 question, but I think you know what I'm talking.
Yep. So first of all, number one is I'll start from does the organization decide they want to do automated testing? Right.
Hmm.
That's a decision itself. Um, well, let's assume that they agreed to it and they purchased a tool. There's a whole set of challenges just to acquire the tool. Which one they're going to use? What's appropriate for them? Now, the next challenge, right? You can avoid a lot of the challenges. I'll start by saying that. One is by setting the expectations. When do you do automated testing, right? Typically, if someone develops something, it's a key business feature and it's a stable functionality and it's important to the business. It's good practice to regression test it, right? Let's start from that perspective. If it's a core feature, if it's an important business process, you want to regression test it. Manual or automated is not in the discussion yet, right? If it's core, it's important. If this functionality were to break, let's say you are a client of Bank of America, one of their, you have their app, right? If their login feature was broken, immediately you would stop using the app.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you're going to go to someone else. So think from that impact. I used a bold example, but if you're struggling to use a product, you're not going to sustain using it. One is so I mentioned core features, something that's
So
stable,
so
something that
basically,
yeah.
let me rephrase what he said. So what Khalid said, actually exactly your interview answer. Exactly. You do not do automate all the shit you see on the application. You
Mhm.
focus on the business, like the core feature. So that's the interview question: how you identify the automation, why automation is needed. The more you take care your business, means their requirements, their core feature, the best return will be for you, and the more return you provide to them, they will stand for you to keep them. Because in many companies they just literally get rid of the automation team because the team is not able to identify what to automate. So keep in mind, like what he said, the core feature that should be able to automate. Automation is also called the regression. The purpose of this, you need to make sure the existing functionality works, and the new functionality you can do the manual testing. That's the whole purpose of the automation. If you have a hundred of requirements, it is done, and you have like a next 2 months, you have a 300 requirements to be coming. So now you do not have enough time in 15 days sprint to test previous 100 requirements, means functionality, and the upcoming all the new requirements. So at this moment you have two options. If you do the manual testing existing one, your new requirements will have the less focus. But you need to make sure you need to test the existing requirements, because unique new requirements can broke the existing requirements. So the best bet is the automation. Now you do the GUI automation, you do the API automation. That's really depends how the application architecture, like what is the architecture of the application. If it is the RESTful API, you go to the automation with the API. If it is like the monolithic application or the web application, then you do not have any option. You have to do the GUI automation. Okay, so yeah, go ahead. You can add some as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. So there are certain elements that may be important to the business, but they require a visual assessment. Now,
Mhm.
that's a drawback of automated test tools. Automated test tools are nothing but a robot, a machine that you have to teach something to, and they can
Mhm.
repeat that action. And it's colorblind for the most part, right? It's not
Mhm.
going to see how fast or how slow something moves across the screen.
Mhm.
That takes human intelligence.
Mhm.
What often it's not even looking at locations of objects, right? So if your UI has a login feature, right? You're entering a username. Your automated test tool will do that. It's going to enter a password. But what is the standard, right? As a visually as a user, you know the username always comes first and the
Mhm.
password field next. If
Mhm.
it flip flopped, right? If that broke, your automation test tool would not catch it,
Mhm.
right? So automated testing does provide its value, but it's not completely 100% reliable for everything. It's another as far as a good practice to automate is things. Should I say if it's I mentioned core business functionality. One is it's something that you intend to do often, right? If it's something, there's a cost to build an automated test tool. If it's something that's relevant to you for only a month, it's probably not worth automating because it might
Mhm.
take a couple of weeks to build a framework for this feature. And then you're only going to run it like 10 times, right?
Mhm.
A manual tester could have tested that test case 10 times probably in an hour.
Mhm.
Whereas an automation engineer will spend a couple of days maybe. Um, So as far as highlighting return on investment, it's important to capture metrics. What
Mhm.
are metrics? Let's think of it this way. There's a saying that you can't improve what you cannot measure.
Yes.
And and there are things that we measure on a daily basis. Like
Mhm.
let's get away from software development for a minute. If you were training for a race,
Mhm.
you would measure the amount of time it takes you to run a certain amount of distance,
Mhm.
and try to improve on it. If you're studying for an exam, you would take practice exams and measure your score and find areas to improve on.
Mhm.
Think of quality metrics or software development metrics as nothing but the same approach to make the organization better in their quality practice.
Mhm.
Um, So, with that said, one of the key things as far as showing return on automation, a return on investment on the automation tool is showing how many defects you're catching
Mhm.
totally independently, right? So, automated test tools are um, there to work in the evenings. Computers don't get paid overtime. You're not paying them extra to work on the weekends, whereas a manual tester has to be paid. Otherwise, they're not going to show up to work.
Computer does
Um,
not sleep either.
exactly. Exactly.
It can run
Yeah.
at 2 a.m. in the morning
Yeah.
while we're sleeping, or we are in the honeymoon, right?
Yeah.
That's
Typically, that's
it.
how organizations do it. Your automation engineers, they're developing scripts during the
Mhm.
daytime and they kick off their tests before they leave for the day. They
Mhm.
probably go home and just, do a health check to ensure that it's still
Yep.
not crashing and burning. But for the most part, it runs on its own.
Yep. So, quick question. We have a question you see now on the screen.
Yep. I
Can
see it.
can you explain bug life cycle when developers? So, do you want to take it or you want me to go?
I mean, can you explain the bug cycle when developers disagree a bug? That time, what I will do, priority and are you? If the question is, does the developer disagree with priority and severity? If that's the case,
I
you
think
should.
he asked the both. Okay. So, if I understand correctly, so Ahmad, everything is start with the understanding. If a developer disagree with you, most of the time he's right. I can tell you one thing because the guy who write the code based on his understanding is a developer, and many times I found on my own journeys myself, whenever I raise a bug, most of the time I found I did not understand the requirements very well. Number one. Number two, I found that my test data is not designed in a way that can fulfill this specific scenario. Third times I found that maybe one time I run, I did not verify with my peer that make sure that if your computer it is working as expected or not. So this kind of the scenario happen when developer do not agree with you. Another scenario is developer do not agree with you because if you test in development environment where he can tweak the code right away and he can like put it in the default position, hey, it is not a bug. So there is so many circumstances involved to disagree and agreement. I believe everything is start with building a good relationship with the developer. That's my personal take. I know many people don't agree with me. It's my own personal. Always build the relationship, understand the requirements very well, and before creating the bug, have a quick chat with the developer. Again, that's part of the relationship. If they're the offshore, just the walkthrough with your peer review means, hey, I found these issues. Like, can you look through this? Basically, is your computer is working as expected? Because remember, end of the day, we are developing an application which is not built, which is bits and pieces everywhere. It is broken because we are developing. We are not developing yahoo.com that is already ready to go. So this is not like a in a like a perfect way of saying it. It's just the building the relationship, understand the requirements very well, and then just talk to them like a quick chat. I got this, given a screenshot. I got this. This is what I'm expecting. This is what actually happened. Would you? What do you think? Is it something I'm missing somewhere else? Instead of saying it is a bug, and see what he said. If you say, "Wow, interesting. It seems like it's not working. Why not create a bug?" So now you got a like an acknowledgement from him. Okay, that's my opinion I'm giving. Now, if you create a bug, definitely he already accepted the bug. At this moment, he will accept the bug. Now, come to the priority versus severity. Okay, so it depends. Khaled was just saying if you go to the Bank of America website, if if the login is broken, its priority is high. Means priority is high means severity is high. Means without login, million of customer cannot do anything on the Bank of America application. Now the priority low, severity low. What is this? You log into the app and you see the Bank of America. Okay, there is a typo or the image is broken, like the logo is broken. That's the low priority. Yeah, it's an issue. It is a bug, but it's a low priority. So in the low priority, low severity. When the high priority, high severity. Now, who make the decision is you, because you are working on the application. You know the requirements, which requirements is causing what is the priority should be, what is the severity should be. Even though if you provide the priority and severity, actually sometimes the product owner can make the decision or can do the final call. Hey, you said this is priority high. I talked to the scrum master and the business team. It can be the priority can be medium. So it really depends team to team and by the environment to environment and project by project. I hope I clarify. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Khaled. Go ahead.
yeah. I'll just add a little bit to that since my role involves perfecting the operation. So, what Shiblubai said is kind of what happens practically in the field. The ideal situation, right, is you shouldn't think of the development team as a separate entity.
Yes, you should not. You are part of the development team. You are.
Yes, yes. So you should have your test cases reviewed and agreed to by a business analyst.
Hmm.
You can
Definitely.
have the developers sit in on that meeting. You can deliver your test cases to the developers to let them know what you're going to test. So this partnership helps avoid defects down the pipeline and
Hmm.
make sure that you're synchronized because you may have misinterpreted the requirement yourself.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have a next question about the I think Azizul Haq, he's a new fresher QA tester. I think he got the training from somewhere else. So of course the missing about the tell me about yourself. So okay. So tell me about yourself. Actually, when I ask tell me about yourself, when I ask Khalid tell me about yourself, it means Khalid will tell me about his last project, not his family, not his multi-million dollar business, and not his how many kids he has. So Khalid will exactly say, tell me about my last project. Means you have to tell about your project. What the project about? What was the solution there? What was your involvement? What was the project development methodology has been followed, like the Agile Scrum? And how did you do? What are the challenge was in there? How did you guys overcome? So when you'll talk about all of this on and on and on, 3 to 5 minutes, I will actually catch you that yes, you are saying the truth. But when you're just saying I got a 10 years of experience QA, I know the software development life cycle, I know this, I know that, that means you are creating like a boring situation there. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that. Tell me about yourself. Hey, my last project was the electric vehicle. It is the Volkswagen, one of the highest priority in the global organization. So basically, this project is, so we have over 10,000 like a dealer in North America, and the purpose is existing process need to be automated. What does it mean? The currently all the vehicle owner goes to the dealer and they do the vehicle like the software changes through the CD and the like through the electric cables, like the dealership do this. However, New process will ensure that the customer do not need to do that. New process will be part of the connected vehicle. What it means, the when a customer buys a new vehicle from the Volkswagen, they can register. Their information will go in the back end, and then from the customer they will get the 2 years of the free software update automated way. What that means, that from the Volkswagen, the every vehicle will have the free data. Free data means the vehicle has like the specific device is called the telematic device. The device has the modem. The device has a router, and this device is connected with the backend of the Volkswagen, and then you can get the backend for the data. The means data means your updated software from the Volkswagen, from the backend server to your vehicle. That's the way that this project was. It was the agile scrum methodology. We have a 2 weeks sprint. There is like the three QA in the project. I was one of the QA engineer. Part of my job was like the manual and the automation testing. In the beginning of the project, of course, it's fully cloud natives. So our team was in Germany, team was in North America. We have like the lot of the RESTful APIs based on the each of the features. So my involvement was understanding each of the requirements and did all the positive testing and the negative testing on all the APIs. And I have done all the automated testing, and through the CI/CD pipeline like Jenkins, we completed the automation so it run automated way. That's the how you want to tell me about yourself. That's the I want to hear that. If you talk about unnecessary thing, that's the road flag, red flag. We do not want to hear any of this. So you see, this is how I did. Even though I was not the QA, I was the lead solutions architect for the in the Volkswagen as like for the connected vehicle, electric vehicle. The dealer management is a big project, but that's how I will come up. Tell me about yourself, because I know the project from the front end, from the back end, where is the involvement, what is the existing problem, how we are coming up the solution through the project. So Azizul Haq, I hope I answered your question. Khaled, go ahead, you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. So what I recommend is this question gets asked a few different ways, right? Different people will ask it differently. If they'll ask, tell me about yourself, tell me about your current role, tell me about your day-to-day responsibilities, they're actually asking the same question. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so have the same answer regardless of the way they ask it. It should be 2 3 minutes. If you go beyond that, they will start to get bored. And I can
Involvement.
assure, yeah, for the most part, the follow up questions, the additional questions you get in the interview, probably 75% of them will come out of what you told them in the opener.
Yes, yes. So basically, you're reminding everybody. So basically, tell me about yourself is table of contents. Throughout the 50 minutes, they will be hammering you all the question you all the question you just mentioned in the tell me about yourself. So make sure you go high level and you are ready to go details of each of the scenario. Go to the point, be specific, be technical from your own project. Do not say what is the like a RESTful API? Oh, RESTful API is like the devices communicating. No, just say in my projects, my all the features I work, there was like over 30 user story, over like the 50 APIs and all the RESTful APIs. So that's how you involve them in the project. You do not give them the definition, the book version of the definition. Thank you, Khaled. Muhammad Minhaz said the priority is set by the developer and the severity is set by the tester. Developer can say the bug is not high priority, but it is blocking many test scenario. The severity should be high. So Minhaz, yes, it really depends the scenario by scenario, like the company to company. As Khaled mentioned, actually everybody is in the same entity, like the developer, a QA, a product owner, a solution architect. Actually, all these 20 people, sorry, application developer, front end developer, app developer, database engineer, solution architect, DevOps engineer, release manager. Actually, everybody is part of the software development team. So there should not be any like the divide. Oh, he said that. Who said that? If it is a good teamwork, the product owner will be there or the project manager will be there. Actually, the team will decide what is the severity of the priority. If the two people is like the conflicting, something is not right there. That's my opinion, Minhas. But yes, it really depends the team to team. But I see what you meant, and I think agree in some point. Khaled, go ahead.
So typically, as a best practice, the development team or the team itself should have a defect triage committee,
Hmm.
right? It should be usually a product owner,
You're right. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
technical lead, and somebody from QA. You typically a test lead,
Hmm.
and they need to agree to it. So the
Yes,
QA's role is to report the defects. They're not there to drive severity and priority, right?
that's correct. Yeah.
When they log it, they report something based on their assessment,
Hmm.
but it's ultimately the product owner that expresses
Yes.
the intention of the business, and
Yes.
that is the process to which with which the team should be operating.
Yes. That's
And
actually you
severity
said it right.
level is based on the business context,
Yeah.
not whether it's blocking your testing. It
Correct.
could be blocking your testing, but it may be low severity to the business, right?
Yes, I agree. Again, as we mentioned, like it depends what you say. If like the savings account is not able to send the money to the checking, that's the CB. Everybody knows. Everybody knows this is a high severity, high priority. So again, Khaled said it really depends what you say, what business say, and I select the agreement, and the final decision come from the business. That's correct. Thank you. What are the disadvantages of the agile? How I convert weakness into strength? Please explain us. You want to take it? Go ahead.
Disadvantages of agile. So that's a tough one. One is that the requirements are constantly changing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's one of the drawbacks. Now, how do you convert this weakness to a strength? Um, Ultimately, what are you there for? You're there to generate money for the business. Under the hood, that's what you're there for. You're not
Mm-hmm.
getting paid unless the business makes money with the product you're producing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Therefore, agile makes sense because there's a repetitive implementation and feedback cycle. Back in the day, when a lot of organizations were operating in a waterfall methodology, it took probably 2 years to from the point where they had their final requirements, they started building it, and after 2 years, they no longer needed the product that was produced. That's why um, teams have adopted agile. So you deliver piece by piece. And if there's discrepancies, users will let you know, right? Hey, 90% of this looks good, but visually, I think this makes a little bit more sense. Let's create another story and add it to the backlog.
Yep. So Ahmad, so disadvantage of the agile. Actually, there is no disadvantage of the agile. Okay, the agile is to ensure the business owner is sucking your blood. By the way, so write down in your notebook. It means that they will take the highest productivity from you. Khalid mentioned it change the requirements all the time. It is true because business give the requirements, they make the changes, they tweak it to instead of taking the disadvantage. I would say the advantage means to do the very good job in the agile. Strong communicate. You have to be a strong communication person. You need to do the collaboration. You need to understand your requirements. You need to stick, focus, laser focus. If the sprint has the 5 user story for you, please do not look on any other thing. Stick with that. Your test plan, understand the requirements, clarify, communicate, and the review process. Do all of this. There is zero disadvantage for you. But if anything you are missing, you are not communicating, you are silo, you are not collaborating, you're not asking any question in the requirements meeting, and you are doing the same thing every day, like the daily stand up. I did the same story every day, every day, every day. So that's all not good. So it can cause you the stomach pain if you are not good, strong, like the quick person is the right people for the agile. If you're lazy, they will catch you. As for the weakness, I don't know what you mean by the weakness. We have all the weakness. So, as an example, I can give you an example. I always get the when we beginning any company, we always get the communication feedback. Hey, because I don't know the people, I asked a bunch of questions, so I get the feedback. So, if strength, how you convert your weakness into to the strength. As an example, I received some feedback when I joined a project because I did not know all the technical stakeholder at the management level. I sent an email without some explanation, and this email did not go well. People did not understand, Ended up my explanation confused people. So I received a feedback from my leader that, hey, I know your intention was good, but your email got confused so many people. So that was the feedback I gave. Thanks. So what I did next time, now the weakness to the strength, the things I did next time when I wrote an email, I wanted to double check, did I understand the requirements very well? Do I have the right wording in my email? And am I highlighting some of the area that people can understand? Do I have a right audience in my two? Do I have a right audience in my CC? Yes, I do have everybody else. And then I also walk through with my leader before I sending to the wrong large audience. That's how I ended up from my weakness to the strength. Again, it depends the scenario by scenario. But this is the example. This is how I overcome my weakness to the strength. Go ahead, Khalid.
So that's a good question. How I convert weakness to strength? Don't feel like you're compelled to present yourself as the perfect candidate. Your interviewer knows you're human, and they're trying to see if you can gauge or figure out what your areas to improve are. That's
Mhm.
the intention of this question. I actually asked this question in a very creative way, and it throws off a lot of candidates. The way I phrase it is, if I were to ask your boss, what are some things you could improve on? What would they tell me? Think about that. What I'm finding out from you is, do you speak with your team lead often enough to understand how you are performing?
Definitely.
Uh,
Nope. I think we answered pretty good. So I think we have the 4 more minutes. Are you happy that you got enough the questions, Khalid? Did you enjoy the session?
I'm looking forward to more questions. It's been fun. It's actually more interesting when people ask
Yes.
specific questions. It allows us to focus on. I can keep rambling on. I've been in the industry for 10 years. I can share unlimited stories,
Yeah.
but it may not be of value unless you
You asked.
point
Yeah.
me in a direction as
So
something that you can use.
So Ahmad actually he texted me this morning. I was in the DevOps workshop, and I said, "Why not you ask all the question in the live? Because this live you can ask any question. This is not any specific. If it is related to the IT, if it is related to what you're doing, we are definitely able to provide our own input. We are not the right person to say that's the final answer. Can you talk about the Scrum Master role, Mustafiz? Yeah, I think you're getting there, right? You're bringing Scrum Master that came on.
Yeah, so I am a certified Scrum Master.
Woo!
Um, Having said that, I have never actually held that role. So I understand the textbook version of what a proper Scrum Master should be. A Scrum Master's role is to facilitate the development process and ensure the team stays focused on the project activities. What are the project activities? Typically, the sprint formalities, which is your sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retro. Um, these are the sprint ceremonies. Your job is to facilitate that. Your job is to ensure and identify the team's bandwidth. Your job is also to remove any impediments that the team faces. You're
Mhm.
facilitating the daily stand up. If somebody comes to
You
you
know
and
what the product owner does? Scrum Master, I think they are kind of the supervisor. Does the Scrum Master involved with the? I don't know. It
yes, the Scrum Master does product grooming, product backlog
yeah,
grooming with the
yeah,
product owner.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I just knew that in many team the product owner. I saw so back in 2010. When I started 11, that's I saw the Scrum implementation. The guy was the Scrum Master. He worked in Microsoft. He was actually his talk was very straightforward. Like he was like the supervisor. So in Mustafa is in one word, if you want to be a good Scrum Master, you have to be a good supervisor. Okay, you have to have the political knowledge to deal with the business, to deal with the technology team. Okay, the roles there is so many ceremony. They are typical. How much the team to team follow it really depends, but you have to be political really. Then you have to sometimes you have to say business to no, or you have to like If business give you a lot of things to finish in a couple, like the in a sprint that you are not able to finish because it's a team has a 80 hours to week, and you need to politically you need to say, okay, so what is the priority on this, the 80 user story? Okay, you just cannot say the no. Again, as a business owner, I know what I'm talking, because if I'm looking for a lot of things, my development team always push by, it's not possible for these 2 weeks. Tell me what is the important one to complete. So beside the what Khaled said, as per my knowledge, you have to be political. You need to be like a strategical knowledge to deal with the Scrum, like the stakeholders, to understand their priority, their work. Then you, of course, you will work with the product owner plus the development team to make the whole things, the Scrum implemented in your projects.
I'll add just one little thing. Scrum
Yes,
Master does not express their personal opinion.
yes,
They are not about that. They're about keeping everybody happy and
yes.
focused.
Try, yes,
Yeah,
that's they pull the emotion from their heart. That's not their job.
yeah.
Tell me about the feedback. Hey, we are Bangladeshi people. Do you get angry when you get feedback, Khaled? Khaled, you sucks. Are you happy?
Huh?
So we have a problem with the receiving the feedback. So
Uh,
tell me about the feedback. Many of us get very defensive. No, 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 that's not my problem. Oh no, no, that's not. You give the reason. So tell me about the receiving the feedback, how important it is for somebody's personal growth.
those who climb up the ladder, they're constantly actually asking for feedback,
Exactly. He nailed it. That's it.
right?
Nothing else.
Yeah. You
I think you
could
said
be
it.
spending, yeah, you could be spending hours, days preparing a presentation. You think it's well and great, it's impressive, you did your best, and somebody in the presentation says, I completely disagree with what you said,
Yeah, that's
right?
yeah, exactly.
It happens. It's normal. People
Yeah,
have
that you have
perspectives,
your own.
opinions.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you're right.
Um, you should honor their feedback,
Yes,
right? It may
yes,
hurt you, but that will be momentary. I can
yes.
assure you, if you ask them to share their opinion, what
Hmm.
they disagree with, what can be approved, they'll be more than happy to work with you.
Yes. Do not just say, do not get defensive when you receive a feedback. Even though you do not agree with the feedback, ask the to the point, what is the what specific point they do not agree or they're giving you feedback. And always give them thank you. Maybe they're trying to pull your leg. See, you get defensive, or you are like the open-minded. So again, I saw that in software development team, feedback is a gift. Means we do not push anything in the production without going through the multiple round of review. A software developer goes through the review. His senior developer, a QA goes through his senior QA, a product owner goes through the what is called the Scrum Master. So review is everywhere. So feedback is a gift. Please do not get defensive. Either you're professionally like a 5 years or 10 years or 5 days. Can you give a short brief of story point? Go ahead, Khaled, you take it. I think he's ready for the interview. Come on, Khaled.
All right, make sure you write down what I said. You'll get the job.
Pass it.
So, story points are nothing but a way to estimate how long the effort to implement that story is. Right?
Complete, yeah, complete.
Uh, so, most teams follow the Fibonacci standard, which is 1, 3, 5, 8, 13,
Mm-hmm,
21 points.
mm-hmm,
Um, this is nothing but an estimate of how complex they think implementing a feature would be.
mm-hmm,
Um, now, notice this is not measuring hours or days it would take somebody.
mm-hmm,
It's relative to the other stories that are there, right? So if me and Shiblubai, we were working on the same assignment, I can assure you we're not both going to finish at the same time,
yep. Mm-hmm,
right? It's a matter of how complex the story is as opposed to effort. The others on your
also the experience. If you work in the same project 5 years, it can take like a 5 hours for you. I just
yeah
joined yesterday morning. It can take 4 days for me. So it
yeah
depends. So the
yeah
whole purpose of the Ahmad, the whole user story is, the user story is, if it takes the login, the user story is login. User should be able to log into the Facebook successfully from that app. So if developers say it will take like the 2 days for me, if the QA says it will take 2 days for me, so according to his Fibonacci point, it will be like 3 days, right? 3 days means 5 business days. Means
Yeah.
total timing. Again, it does not ended up goes to the timing because you work 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, and the 80 hours the bi-weekly total. Even though we do not count as the total hours, we just said how complexity it is, how long actually I have to put my effort to get it done. So total, both people, the estimation become a user story. Now, the caveat here, if Khaled said it will take 5 days, and I said, wait a minute, Khaled, I can show you, Khaled, how to get it done in 3 days. So it means there is like a negotiation process happening in the user story. Means the senior and the engineer or the senior, the people stay in the estimation planning meeting, they have their own saying. Because at the end of the day, somebody knows the product very well. Somebody knows the requirements very well. Okay. If Khaled is a very experienced engineer, he can say, yeah, to implement this, the Facebook, the authentication, it will take like a couple hours. Khaled, go ahead, you're fine. Go ahead, give one day, I will help you. So you got the one day because Khaled said 3 days. And I said it will take 4 days for the testing. And my senior engineer said, no, wait a minute. I can show you. It should take, maybe you can write the 30, the test cases for the positive, negative, for all the RESTful API, you're good to go. So it means that even though you're giving your time, but that time may not be approved because the other team member has the voice. That's how it comes to the pointing system. So who is the most winner? Like if somebody said 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, the 3 is the winner. So that's how it is. Team capacity is not like this. It's the team member capacity. Okay, because the your capacity is the 2 weeks sprint, you got 80 hours. If it is a 1 week sprint, most of the time it's 2 weeks sprint, you have 80 hours if you do not take any vacation in this sprint. Okay, and it's not done yet. If you do not work straight 8 hours in a day, you always take maybe 6 or 7 hours because you have to go through the couple like the meeting. Again, some team the your meeting time take the consideration, some team they don't. It all depends the team to team what they're trying to do actually. Can you talk about the velocity?
Yep. So the team velocity is nothing but another metric. They're trying to measure how much the team produces in a sprint, and they measure it in story points. So typically, let's say a team delivers 50 points worth of story one sprint, 25 story points in another sprint. What is their average velocity? Right? It would be 75 over 2. Um, it's just nothing but a measure. Team capacity is how many people are available to you, how many days of effort you have available to you, who's taking vacations, and whatnot. That's the team's availability to perform work.
Mhm. Next question is the usually is from my own team. Go ahead, you answer this. What should be the proper interview approach for QA?
So the proper interview approach for a QA is probably, I would say, find someone to interview you and do mock interviews, right? Ask them to prepare their own test or question bank and throw random questions at you. You'll notice a pattern. There's different ways to ask the same question. I I kind of prepare for an interview, as I mentioned, I think earlier on this call, that probably 80% of your questions throughout the interview will come from what you did and what you said in the opener. Just tell me about yourself. I like to lead on my interviewer to the point where I can almost guess what question they're going to ask me next. If you tell them in the opener that you follow a agile development strategy, I can assure you they will ask, what is your agile development process like? And if you are a smart interviewee, you will catch that on. The more interviews you take, the more you'll be able to predict what your interviewer is going to ask you.
So basically, what I say, I do not let go people to the job market. By the way, Khaled. So I said you have to write the terms and condition. You agreed. You have to apply minimum 100 jobs a week. Then I will let you go to the job market. So it goes to your answer that the more interview you face, the more job you apply, the more interview you get. Actually, you become the professional bitch sometimes because you know the shit very well. So there is no shortcut of the approach. Approach is the push yourself, face more and more interview, more and more interview. The complexity will be much easier every day. You become the pro of the interview. That's the like a very easy way to nail it. Hey, do you have time? People is asking question. So you want to keep going?
Yeah, it's hot, so let's keep it moving.
Okay, go ahead. I was asked what decision criteria will you use to decide whether you will accept your next job offer. That's a good question. I think. Go ahead, Khaled. You take it.
So, yeah, I will rephrase that question. Right? You probably wrote it exactly the way your interviewer said. Another short way to ask it is, what's your ideal work environment like? Right?
That's
What do you seek from your next employer? What
yeah,
are you seeking in your next role? They're all the same question.
yeah.
Um, a couple of basic things is I seek an environment that values my inputs as well as one where I can learn something.
Mhm.
That's a very matured answer. It shows that you have something to contribute. At the
Mhm.
same time, you're also willing to absorb and grow. Right?
Mhm.
At a personal level, you can also mention that you value personal time. So yes, you make a commitment to working hours, but you also enjoy an environment that values your personal time as well. A weekend here and there and long hours, a couple of weeks here and there is not an issue, but you don't want to make that a habit.
Yeah. So it should not be money, by the way.
Yeah.
It should not be money. It should be what he said. I want to grow. I want to contribute. Yeah, I think this Khaled said very well. Um, Ahmad, he said thank you for giving his answer. Yeah, hope you pass the interview. Send them sweet to everybody. He's from New York. So by the way, we did not talk about the. So are you planning to do something in the future? Uh, the like the from the helping software industry, or you're going to sticking with the realtor business?
So I'm not a realtor, I'm a real estate investor. So I have an investment business.
Okay, got
I actually run an operation with some partners across the entire United States.
it.
So in my journey, so I'll go backtrack a little bit. My first job in the IT industry was in Kansas City. A year later, I moved to California for my next role.
Mhm.
So I have covered from New York to California by ground. So I have had an opportunity to see various parts of the country. One thing that stands out to me is that this country's history is actually very short, about 200 something years. How did this country become the richest country in the world in such a short relative history? Why? It's because they figured out a way to make money everywhere. And they work in conjunction with each other. And one of the most, I think, profitable investments you can make is in the real estate industry. So I have networked with some real estate investment professionals, and this is going outside of the realm of our scope for today's discussion, but I'll, I've explored real estate investments as an opportunity. I've benefited from it. I coach individuals on how to get into this industry because there's money to be made everywhere. We have clients that are sitting outside of the country making money in the United States. This
I'm
is
going.
a
I'm going to ask you a hard question. You just bring the money. You're in
yeah.
trouble. Go ahead.
So um, what can I say, right? Bengali people, as far as thinking from a financial planning perspective and investment perspective, we are very, very behind.
Mhm.
What do Americans do?
I say
They,
50 years.
I would say maybe more than that.
I agree. I agree.
So there's the aspect of learning it, and then there's an aspect of actually doing it.
Mhm.
Many will learn, few will do. But what I will say is that it's one of the safest ways to make money. Americans don't work 50, 60 years of their life. They
Mhm.
work probably 20 years. And then they explore something else where they're able to sustain their standard of living that generates
Mhm.
income. And the earlier you start, the better. If you look at the data is out there. just in the last 10 years, forget last 10 years, this year itself, the price of a single family home on average went up 11%
Hmm.
in just 1 year.
Hmm.
So that's money to be made without doing anything. And there's four sources of income that real estate generates for you. Um, that's an elaborate discussion to have. I don't want to
No, you're fine.
initiate that. Yeah.
I wanted to say, guys, if somebody is interested to become the develop their passive income or the second income, please reach out to Khaled. Of course, Khaled is IT professional. Plus, he's the businessman. He is. By the way, I never met with Khalid in person. I never know him. I think we ended up meet with that group. What the group name? Giant Bay Group, right? Big group.
Yeah. ABCH.
Yeah, we troll a lot each other. I troll the Mustafiz a lot. I troll like we are just hyper there. We never know one another. But I just spoke with him today and find out that his vision and my vision is very similar. But it's really good. I think that what is the problem with the with our community? We're very hardworking people. We grew up from nowhere. We did not see, when I grew up, I did not see any like a luxurious food, luxurious meal. It's a rice, okay? And that's how we grew up. We did not have like a good sanitation system, right? No electricity, right? We sleep without fan, right? And that's how in the summertime is hot, right? That's how we grew up. Think about this. We came to this country. We came to this country with a green card or the student visa, whatever, mostly start with the green card. Of course, with the family oriented, the waiting brother, sister, and whatever the reason, we stuck with the food stamp or we stuck with the free medical. That's got into our brain, got into our head, and instead of we taking the advantage for the short term, those needed, yes, I needed, you need, everyone needed. We made that habit permanently. That's the way we are missing all the money. But money is flying in the United States. You are absolutely correct. Anywhere you go, if you are smart in this country, everything they do, they just business. Everything. They do the funeral, it's a big business. You see this? The
Oh
biggest
yeah.
money they're making funeral. Everywhere you go. So you're right. We are way behind of anything. So anyway, for me, I think I did not tell you that much. Of course, I work in the industry. Oh, by the way, Khalid and I started almost the same time the QA. I asked him why he's still stuck in the QA. So I think his business is more important than the QA role, but he is moving to the more kind of the management role. I moved to the like architect role because I saw that I got bored with the QA job for a while. I said I did a lot, I learned a lot, I did work hard to learn the business back and forth. Then I moved to the QA, from the QA to the QA architect. Then I went to the performance engineer architect. Then I went to the technical lead architect. Then I went to the lead solutions architect. Then I said I'm done. So what he said, I actually read what is his name, the Alibaba's guy, Jack Ma, right?
Yep.
Jack Ma. He said try to get done your career by 40. If you want to do something, if you want to do business or whatever you do, you have to do finish everything by 40. So I decided last year, 19 January, I started planning that I want to do the business. The whole 19, I slowly ground up the work. And the 19 and the December, I said I'm done with the work. I want to shine other people, and then that's what I'm doing. So we are developing the software, we are building the portfolio, and the offshore and onshore model. Our team member is in Bangladesh, and the people we transform, we transform like in a couple position, the unified quality engineer, the DevOps engineer, and the Python backend engineer, the software engineer, and the Node.js engineer. The goal is they will be learning and they'll be working on my own project. And the discipline, the transformation means the how they talk, how they communicate, how they write English, and what is the commitment, what is the communication, what is the collaboration. We teach all of this and that they have to do at the same time. So that's how our program is, like the 6 to 8 month. So I enjoy so far what I'm doing. So definitely, Khalid, you are welcome to join one of our session. We do Saturday the DevOps, Sunday the QA program. Sunday there is two QA program. Definitely join one of the session. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Eastern time, and just give some feedback. Okay, feedback is a gift. So I empower my people to talk to me. If they are not able to talk to me like in front of the people, they can call me one on one. They can give the feedback. I also provide them feedback as well. So I just run the show like a behind the scene in a way that they actually they have to feel like they're working in a project, and they will be ready for the next projects. So that's pretty much we do. We are going to start the whole new the three group on January. So again, this is all the Python, DevOps, and the unified quality engineer. So that's it. Anything else you want to add, Khalid?
So I see the last comment by Mustafizur Rahman. A good work environment is better than
The next
extra
one.
money,
I
peace of
agree.
mind. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more
Yeah.
because I truly admire the company that I work for.
Hmm.
This company is based in New Zealand, and a
Yeah.
lot of the people that I work with are from New Zealand, and they
Hmm.
have a different kind of culture than what we see in the US. Has a way, a culture of saying that they're the best, they're the youngest, they're the richest. In cases, it may be true, but the culture in New Zealand opens to everyone, which is it allows everyone a chance to demonstrate what they've got. Um, and the culture we have is one that provides mentorship. So my boss in my current role, he's not even on the project that I'm on. He handed me the keys and said, "You go run the show." Um, I, just for sake of professionalism, he reviews some of the work I have. I always reach out to him. I get a second opinion on whatever I deliver to our clients.
Hmm.
But he fully trusts me. In fact, yesterday I sent out a report. He wasn't able to get to it. I just sent it out by bypassing him, and he apologized even not for not even being able to review the work. Um, so that's the kind of culture that I admire. I
Hmm.
did receive another offer, in fact, that would have given me a 30% increase in salary, which is a significant amount, right? And most people, if you were making 100,000 and you got an offer on the table to make 130K,
Hmm.
you, in most cases, even myself, I would have taken it. But I evaluated my options and I chose not to go with that.
Because the culture is not good, correct?
Well, I don't want to say that because there's a mystery, right? Every time you go into a new environment, what happens is in your current role, you built up a reputation. Now you have to start from scratch again. Um, and whereas you could have spent that added effort just building on top of the reputation you already had.
Hmm.
Most people do not switch jobs for a pay increase. I can assure you that they change jobs for other reasons.
It really depends both. From my opinion, it is both. I agree. The main reason is you do not have a good boss. Of course, you work hard. You do not get paid, and then of course, then what is the reason? So of course, I have a bad boss. Of course, I'm not getting paid what I'm looking for. My voice is not heard, and my opinion does not matter. I get silo. There is so many reasons people like look for the job. But I completely agree. Good work environment is better than extra money. Peace of mind. Well said. Yeah, Mustafiz. Anything else? I think we almost the 1.5 hour.
Yeah.
So I believe we answer all the question, guys. Thank you very much, everybody, to for your participation, asking the questions. We tried our best to answer from us, from our experience. Reach out to me or reach out to I don't know. I shouldn't say reach out to Khaled because I'm not going to tell somebody. Do you want if people want to reach out to you? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I may not respond immediately as I have other things going on, but I can assure you that you will hear from me probably within a day.
I think you stick with the ABICT, the American Bangladesh IT Community Send community. Like this is the group, the group Hassan Bhai and I vision like the more people join, the existing IT professional and the new people who wants to become an IT. So you guys can post there. We definitely answer there, and of course you can reach out to me one on one. Thank you very much, Khaled. We'll talk in the future again on some of the new topic.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks
everybody.
again for having me
Good night.
sit in on this.
It's pleasure. It's very good talking to you. Thank you.
Uh, All right. Have a good night.
You too.